Good morning, Apex University. My name is Dan, I'll be your coach for today, and if you would like for me to look at your gameplay, ask me any questions, or just play with me and my friends, it's really easy. My Discord is linked in the description. Just post a YouTube link to your video, I'll add it to the list and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Now, a lot of you have joined lately, and so I've gotten to play with a lot of new people, and one of the videos that I've heard a lot about is my video on disengaging and when you have to run away from a fight or try to reset a fight to heal. However, even though most of you have seen that video, I still see a lot of you be quite impressed with the amount of sticky situations where I managed to get away alive. And so I wanted to look at some of those and look at the steps I use to disengage cleanly and then to reset and hopefully come back and clutch the fight. So as you can see, at the start of this game my teammates decided to split up and both drop on two ends of bunkers separately. I'm not quite sure why, but one of them died early and decided to disconnect, as random teammates tend to do when they die early. This instantly puts us in a situation where me and my teammate are now going to be 2v3ing a lot. Now here at the start, these teams in front of bunker didn't get quite as lucky with the gear as I did. I got a wingman and an R99, and they weren't ready for me. They allowed me to rotate around and take some cover, so it's easy cleanup right here, but in the rest of the game I am going to run into situations where there might be full teams of 3, especially later mid and late game with decent gear, and you just can't always take them on by yourself, or you're not always in a situation where you might win that fight, and that's where those disengages are going to come in important. Heard some footsteps from the lifeline behind me here, and I noticed she's the last one from this team, so just quickly take a little bit of high ground and use corners against her. Easy cleanup from there. My teammate so far hasn't really helped in the fight, and he was quite slow. While I was fighting here, by the way, he was looting the people I killed before. So at this point I'm already not expecting too much of him, and I'm going to be in a solo play mindset. So after clearing out the bunker, we make our way over to the supply ship, and it is unlooted, so I find myself that sweet purple armor. The reason I wanted to go here is because with only 2 people I want to put myself in situations where I can scout before fighting, or where fights are going to be predictable, and where I have a lot of cover to work around, because that makes it a lot easier to fight multiple opponents. So this supply ship gives you a great high ground vantage point that attracts teams towards you and makes it a bit more easy for me to control my engage. This enemy was alone and they were lagging like crazy, so I just shot them while they were hanging still in the air, but hey, I got my armor, I got the loot I needed, we've been able to scout the area from here, and so we move on. I know that there is a team up ahead towards the choke between Skulltown and River Center, but as we make our way over there, just like before, the teammate is lagging behind a little bit and he takes a very poor approach. Now, in my previous video I explained a bit about how you can extract value from your teammates even as they're in a terrible spot, and in this situation that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to flank around very wide on the right side so that anybody that pushes my teammate here is forced into a difficult line of sight, and we've got this natural crossfire. My teammate doesn't quite understand that and keeps taking fights on the left where he's blocking line of sight for me and these enemies, so when he goes down I'm not really in a position to help him. That's too bad, but you can't always be fast enough to overcompensate for teammates making mistakes, so I decide that this 1v3 against a team that is working together well and holding the corners pretty decently is probably not going to be in my favor, so I'm just going to dip out. And so here, before I run away from this fight, I wanted to show you the 3 steps that are involved with disengaging, resetting a fight, and then eventually hopefully re-engaging or getting your teammate's banner. The first step is understanding sightlines. Where are the enemies looking at and where can they shoot you? When you're running away, you are oftentimes either quite low health or you're in a position where you simply can't win the fight. And you have to be able to get to a safe spot to heal, of course. During that time you have to survive, so it is very important that you use any cover between you and the enemies, but you can't see them while you're running away. So sound and remembering where they were and how they're going to chase you is incredibly important. Which instantly brings us to step number 2, chasing. If they are going to chase you, how are they going to do so? From where you last saw these opponents, what are the paths that they are going to take to get to where you are going? If you understand that and combine that with the sightlines of step number 1, you can take a path in which it is almost impossible for them to kill you, and then the question is just about whether they are determined enough to keep chasing you up to the point where you no longer have a safe path or you're too late to get your teammate's banner. If they don't keep chasing you all the way into eternity and you don't run into another team while trying to run away, which sadly does happen, you should always be able to get away alive with these 2. And then step number 3 is where you're going to heal. Now you might think if I combine step number 1 and 2 and I get away alive, then that means I can heal anywhere, right? That's sort of true, but a lot of the time you get chased quite far and you want to go just about far enough that you're outside of the audio range of the closest opponent. That way, not only can you heal as quickly as possible so that you can get back in time for your teammates' banners, but the farther away you go, the more likely you are to run into other teams or situations that you aren't ready for. As well as, if you want to re-engage, you have to try to keep an eye on where these opponents are. The positions have changed, and for your engage after healing, you want to be as close as is safely possible. Now the most common one is going to a location where you are far enough away that they can't hear you, like I just said. However, if you're playing a character with a lot of mobility, or there is already a zipline, jump pad or portal placed in the area and you're able to get into any position where people can't easily chase you or can't get quickly, that's when you are sometimes able to ignore the sound aspect, and even though you are closer to opponents, you're still able to heal. Assuming of course they don't have a sightline onto where you're healing. That's step number 1. Lastly, sometimes there are multiple teams involved in a fight, which is why you have to disengage and reset, because there's just too much pressure going on for you to handle. In that situation, if you aren't able to go far away outside of the audio range of your healing items, you might just be able to wait until the enemies are fighting. The gunshots are extremely loud, way louder than most heals, and so in a big fight you can often get away with a heal by waiting for them to be shooting each other. So as you see me running away here, notice how I stay as far away from these guys as possible, so that if they do decide to shoot me it is difficult. I'm strafing by using my mouse, moving it left and right, or if you're on console that would be the analog stick that you aim with, to make myself harder to hit. I'm also, with every object that I pass, keeping that object on my left side to constantly give me small pieces of cover to work with from the enemy team. And of course, lastly, I used my portal because I'm in such a wide open position. The increased speed is useful and makes it more difficult for them to chase me, as well as being a good bait and being able to use it on the way back for the banner. Lastly, I had my Void Walk off of cooldown and I was just saving it to wait for them to hit me so that I could get to the next piece of cover more safely. The fact that they didn't do that tells me that they probably moved towards the left where the zone is, so I waited to see if they would pass, saw a zipline where they were going across and made my way back through my portal to get my teammate's banner. I was ready for them to chase me here. I was lucky they didn't, and that's why I was able to get back in time, but I was already prepared here to leave my teammate's banner behind if I had to, because this is a difficult area in which to get away, so if they had chased me for a bit longer I probably would not have been able to. So after respawning my teammate, I know that the enemy team I just ran away from still has to be nearby enough to hear this res, because I saw them use the zipline I mentioned earlier over in this direction. Because of that, as my teammate falls out and grabs an armor and a weapon, I don't want to be next to him, because that means that we will be initiated upon by a team whose location I don't know yet. So I make my way over towards the right side, because I think that's likely where they went, to check if I can see them and hopefully keep them busy while my teammate grabs his stuff. But sadly they came from the other side, and I also heard somebody in the cave here, so I go back and try to stop the Pathfinder from thirsting him, but I instantly have to disengage to prevent myself from getting sandwiched here. And then another team shows up behind, so I'm three-way sandwiched here. And I decide the one opponent I heard in the cave that is going towards the rest station is my safest bet. So I instantly use the sightlines from before, as well as my Void Walk, which I explained, to get to a spot outside of audio range. Right here, notice how I waited with my battery until they were shooting. Again, because of what I said before, I heard one was still too close for me to use a battery, so I waited for them to be shooting, so the gunshots would ensure that they didn't hear me. One of the enemies takes the same way out to try and heal, and because of that, I can punish him after I used my battery. Now after cleaning these two, I know that there's at least one other team on their way. I heard them, they were shooting and they threw a nade, so I instantly move on farther towards the next spot where I'm on the edge of the audio range. And as I do that, a fourth team shows up behind me. Now I don't see them, but remember what I said? I don't need to see them, I just need to know which direction they're shooting me from and where they are, and I can tell exactly from their bullets as well as knowing the layout. So I don't turn around, I don't bother giving them more time to shoot me, and I instantly disengage, using once again sightlines and any cover that might be around me, as well as of course sliding. Notice how I purposefully dump my portal in mid-air on my way down. That way I can get behind it, and if somebody chases me they will fall out of it, so they can't instantly turn around and shoot me while I'm using my battery. On the way back, I purposefully don't use my portal because it would be close enough to them that they would definitely hear it. And so I walk back to where I have a visual over it. I can see none of them are taking my portal. And as all three of them go on the zipline here, you can instantly see, had I taken that portal, I would have been in a 1v3 right there and I would have probably been dead. Instead, I am able to punish them because they lost track of me, and I know that there is still a team above that will likely distract them. I saw this Pathfinder peeking on the right, so I climb up on the left and I hipfire for max strafe speed, which he doesn't do, he just stands still, so that's why that's a free kill. And as I take up damage here, it's literally the same steps from before. Try to use the cover, try to use my abilities to mitigate any damage, and keep in mind where I think they're going to chase me. This case I don't slide all the way down, because if he chases me around the corner he's way too close for me to break line of sight, and so instead I climb up, where I know I'm within the audio range, but he cannot get to me fast enough to interrupt my battery. And then here, because he went over the top, I can once again use the edge of the cliff like I did before, and I use the exact same spot in the exact same way to manage to finish an entire medkit just fine. He spends time trying to shoot me, and I spent that time trying to mitigate his shot. That way I know I'm buying enough time to get my heal off, and even if he chases me now, he is far enough that I can easily pop some cells. So I'm understanding where he is, and I'm understanding how he's going to chase or shoot me, playing around that. I think 4k damage right now is a lot easier than... well... I don't know.
I still haven't got 2k damage, so it's not that easy for me.
Well, you were 1470 last game?
I get 14, 15 quite regularly.
Yeah.
8 kills, 9 kills, 7, 8, 9, that's quite regular.
Do you play snipers a lot or just a little bit?
Only a little bit. Recently, after the bot, I started using them.
Yeah, because they definitely are good for farming damage. Because so often you hit people twice and then they heal and you hit them once again. That's like 200 damage, you know? It goes pretty fast. Yeah, sometimes, or a lot of the times, if I'm fighting a team alone, I will like down one and they will res him while I'm pushing in, and that's where you just get a lot of damage as well.
I played a Pathfinder the other day and I got over 1000 damage and not a single kill.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those. That's rough.
And ironically, one of my teammates, he did 10 damage and he had a kill.
That seems fair.
Extended light mag here.
I need a weapon.
I dropped a triple take there. I dropped the triple if you wanted. Oh shit, I'm not Pathfinder, my bad. That's like, yeah, over there somewhere, maybe Cascades or Pit, I guess.
Yeah, the door is open here, definitely team here.
Yep, I hear people. On the right here.
Yep.
Hit 60. Oh, I again forgot I'm not Pathfinder.
He's up here.
Watch for them.
Oh yikes, I'm in trouble.
Okay, got the path.
There's one more path on the left here.
No, I got the path. Oh.
Or one more. Bangalore here, one shot.
Nice.
You too. So, did you notice in that small fight that I actually, even without disengaging when I was in trouble, used the exact same steps to stay alive in that fight? Let's go back and look at that again. So disengage here is not ideal, I didn't hear that guy, and I also accidentally put my void walk on cooldown. I thought he did a bit more damage to me than he actually did. He apparently barely hit his shots, but because of that I panicked a little bit. And right here, notice how I know he's chasing me, and so I instantly climb up and break line of sight from the corner where I know he is, until my teammates are there to cover me. And then here, as the Bangalore pushes me, I don't want to take too much damage, so notice how I'm walking backwards to the right, because she is walking forwards to the left, and as she is creating a bigger and bigger line of sight on me, I'm decreasing it at the same time. So this is understanding both sidelines and where the enemies are going to go, because of course as they move, their sidelines change. And now we're about to run into another situation where there's a lot of teams sandwiching us from 3 different directions by the end of this fight, and my teammates will both go down. But here I will show that when you get the opportunity, you can actually use these quick combat resets rather than complete disengages and full heals to completely clutch fights that you would otherwise lose. So 2 enemy teams show up, the third party here, and although I get some good damage in on this Mirage and I'm basically beating him, I overexpose on the weapon swap when I should have used cover, especially since I don't have a turbo, and I get punished for it. But hope is not lost, I have a self-res shield, so I very quickly want to go backwards, just about far enough to break line of sight, and start my revive as quickly as possible while they are still distracted. Then I instantly use my void walk because I'm 30 HP and I'm once again going for the audio range here. Okay, I self-rest. Are they fighting another team or no? When I hear that they're not chasing me, which I can now hear, I go into a corner to use a Phoenix. Now I say a Phoenix, I accidentally swapped to a medkit here and I didn't notice, which is why you don't see me repairing my armor here. That's just a small mistake on my end, I didn't notice. But as I finish my medkit, I instantly change my location because I assume that if they chase me, they will be looking down on that side, so I quickly want to change my direction towards the other side and see if I do indeed see someone chasing me. I see the Pathfinder, and just like before when I was reviewing some footage of myself fighting in this area, I mentioned that approaching from this side you have to go out into the open and then up where you have basically no cover, so if somebody peeks over the edge there, you always want to start by chucking some nades to buy yourself some space to work with. Before the Phoenix even ends, an enemy shows up, and I don't cancel it on purpose because I'm so far along in the Phoenix, there's 2 seconds left. All I can do is try to dodge and weave while healing to make sure it finishes. As long as I don't die before it ends, it will full heal me anyway, and luckily the Pathfinder that pushes up there is the most oblivious enemy I've ever seen. Now I want to clear this side because there's one more Mirage before I push up so that I don't end up being sandwiched. Sadly, I mess up my aim on the Mirage and I have no more time because my friend's banner is about to run out, so I have to sandwich myself. Because of that, notice how when I'm jumping down, I instantly try to break line of sight from the Mirage, and when I use my battery, I know that I'm within audio range of the enemies that are fighting, so I keep a visual on them while keeping line of sight broken on the person behind me. This way, in case the gunshots are not enough because of how close I am and they end up hearing me and possibly turning around to punish me for healing, I can still walk backwards and go around the corner, which should buy me plenty of time to finish a battery. I also, of course, still have my Void Walk off of cooldown, and if I do end up getting pushed here by the Mirage, I will use my Void Walk to go backwards where I came from, knowing that there's only one opponent on that side and multiple enemy teams in front of me. Because I'm still thinking about the Mirage, his sidelines and whether he will chase me, I want to push forward where I have smoke and cover, because going backwards would probably give the Mirage high ground, and I can deal with this scene way more easily. Then I go for an armor swap because it's the quickest way to heal, and now I can finally deal with this Mirage. So we've seen a lot of moments in all of these fights where when things weren't going my way, I just gave myself the time and opportunity to reset and heal properly and just try again. And as long as people allow me to do that, I can just keep trying until I get lucky and it works out. So a lot of the time, pulling out a clutch is not at all about having godlike aim or just completely outskilling the opponent, it's just about not dying. As long as you don't die, you can keep trying again. And even though I messed up my aim on the Mirage, and I forgot my heal, and I had a bad approach, and I messed up my engage, and I had the self-res, all of those things don't matter, because I just kept giving myself opportunities to just keep trying again. And that's the power of staying alive. I really hope that was helpful. Peace. Just pick up one medkit each.
Marry me.
I mean... I'm just a random teammate, bro.